And this presentation will be given by Merce, who you've already heard from, and she'll be joined by Sarah Bird, who's a principal program manager at Microsoft, and also who we've had the great pleasure of working with on the collaboration that's been mentioned a few times. I believe Merce will start.
Thank you. Thank you, Salil. You hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
So I'll talk about collaborations and the types of collaborations we envision for OpenDP, but I'll start with this slide that by now I think you've seen it 3 times, so you just might start becoming familiar with this concept that there is an OpenDP Common, where the OpenDP library based on the framework that we heard about today is built, and there are some OpenDP tools and other components that are part of the commons. And then there are end-to-end systems that are the systems that the end user interface with and resolve some of the use cases we've discussed. So, but what do we mean by the community of OpenDP before we talk about what kind of collaborations we can establish with that community? So it includes, to us, it includes many different specializations and many different roles and types of users. So at the very core, we need the differential privacy experts. Without that, OpenDP that cannot exist, right? And you see that there is a lot of representation within the initial executive committee and the design committee. So then we also need the researchers that are working with sensitive data that want to get results from sensitive data, and we can derive some of the use cases that OpenDP can help to solve. We also need software developers, right, that are building these systems and the data need the data too. And at the same time, in our outer ring, there are also contributions of security experts, legal experts, open source community, policymakers. And then overall, anybody within the industry, academia, and government can be part of that community. And at the outer ring, we even see any individual in society that is interested in either his or her privacy and also is interested in solving challenges in society that can use OpenDP. So what types of collaborations we envision? And just a reminder, like in many of the other presentations today, this is a proposal or something that we want to discuss in the breakout on Friday. And we welcome very much contributions and the participation of the attendees to see what are the types of collaborations we could look into. So first, there is adding features to the OpenDP Commons. Then we also want to see how we could establish partnerships to build entire OpenDP systems. So like the example we've heard today about with Microsoft. We also would like to build partnerships to use data or be able to work with the industry to get data for research, about to solve some research problems. We also would like to partner with research groups or organizations that will want to be the first adapters of the OpenDP tools and systems and will help us test it. And as I show with the community, we want to just include everybody who wants to be part of this community. And very importantly too, we're welcome sponsors for the project. So just an example, I'll go through a few examples for this type of collaborations that can be established with OpenDP. So in the case of, I think I missed one. In the case of contributing to the OpenDP Commons, there might be some organization that would like to add some new feature into the DP library or to one of the tools of the Commons, and could provide financial support to help build this new feature. It also, in a very different way, there could be some contribution to the Commons by having, well, either engineers from industry, DP experts, domain scientists, legal experts, to join the OpenDP team for a sabbatical. Then for the OpenDP system, we we could see we were building partnerships with an organization, a company that is interested in a specific use case that the system can resolve. And in this case, we partnered with the company and the OpenDP team to build that together, or at least provide some guidance to build the system based on the OpenDP Commons. In terms of providing data, we heard today about some of the examples related to Social Science 1 and Facebook, so in those cases we could build partnerships and collaborations to make data from companies available to the research community. And in some other cases, there might be data sets that are not sensitive data sets, but could be very useful for benchmarking, to build a differential privacy library, and we welcome those too. And also, it's always great for a community to have the early adopters, right? The ones that would want to start using a system in the beginning. This could be, for example, a repository that is interested in testing an end-to-end system and integrating it with the repository, and then build some, and since they have already a user base, they can conduct user testing and provide us feedback that helps to improve that system. And then in terms of being part of the community, as I showed in those rings, this really includes a lot of different types of people, a lot of different types of professions and roles. And so some individuals could contribute by contributed code, which is as we know, the standard way of contributing to open source software. And we're, many of us are big fans of open source communities and have already been part of other open source projects in this way. But also there are other ways to contribute, either helping with documentation, with legal expertise, with testing, and just as an individual, you'll become part of the community. And then finally, as a sponsor, well, financial donations are always welcome, of course, and having becoming a sponsor basically of the OpenDP because you believe in what we're doing, or providing a sponsorship in terms of helping build other maybe host hackathons or host events that brings the community together. That's also very much welcome. And as I said, we'll talk more about that in the breakout session on Friday. We welcome a lot of ideas from all of you. Thank you.
Sarah, are you taking over now? Oh, can't hear you.
Sorry, Sarah will go next, yes.
Oh, you're still silent.
How about now?
That's good. That's good. We hear you.
Okay, great. So you've already heard a lot about the actual work that we've been doing with the team here at Harvard. Apparently that has a timeout. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the experience from the Microsoft side of how we started collaborating and maybe a few lessons learned. So the first is I just wanted to sort of introduce myself for context here. So I work in the Azure organization, but my career has generally been working in open source projects. So been involved in quite a few different open source projects. And there's a sort of a careful balancing act, I think, between the way a lot of corporations ship products and the way open source products are developed. And so part of the experience in collaborating has been sort of bridging these two worlds and navigating that. I also want to say, like, each one of these projects, we've had a different governance model, a different collaboration model, a different way that the community has been built that was the right fit for what we were trying to achieve with the project. I don't think there's any one right way to do it. There just might be a right way for the particular project, for the community you're trying to form. And so in the breakout session on Friday, we can talk more about, I'm happy to talk more about what I learned with each of these and kind of the trade-offs. But for today, I'm going to talk about our collaboration experience. So where we were coming from as Microsoft is we had a group of us, and you've met some of us in the presentations here, that deeply believed in differential privacy as a technology. And so we either were working on it in our own implementations in a particular product, or we were trying to help sort of external organizations use it for AI for good, for example, or researchers working on it. And the main thing that was bringing sort of this virtual team together was just, we want to help take this technology to the next level so we can all go back and use it and leverage that. And so we came into it not so much to say like we want to ship a particular product or we have any particular play here, but how do we mature this technology? And that's where we jumped in and partnered with the emerging sort of OpenDP group here, because they had the strong conviction about, we want to build this, open source hub, we want to build this system. And so it was really kind of a perfect match where we were looking for that center of gravity that we could all join in, contribute to. So that's kind of how we got started in it. And there's a couple of things, because we are really representing actually a wide part of our company. We're not a single team. A lot of the design to meet our needs had to be really focused on a design that was flexible, where each individual entity within the company, or of course the community, could take the piece that they needed and use it or extend it, right? We don't have sort of a unified approach. And so that was one of the key pieces for us to even just really make the collaboration work, was just having something that could grow and breathe and wasn't very sort of top down. Like, it had a very thoughtful architecture that enabled this, but wasn't top down and this is what we're building and it has to be this and it meets this group's needs. And I think that's really the only way we even could have made this work even on our side. And one of the experiences that's interesting about this is that open source and even having external partners in some cases makes it easier for us to collaborate within our own company, right? The designs and the structures that it forces, it's designed to make this, for something to be flexible. And so it's actually easier for us to achieve our goals even internally by partnering with OpenDP and developing this system in the open. The only other thing I think that's really been an interesting and important thing to share here is that we've done a lot of work, I think, to frame this very much as an incubation, for the same reason that the technology has a lot of promise, but in lots of ways it still needs to mature, which is exactly why we're starting this community. But that's not sort of how we design product, and there's a lot of sort of rigid demands, and you lose that flexibility when things are viewed as product work, and particularly external collaborations. And so one of the things we've also had to do is just very much frame this as we're developing core pieces in the open. Those are explorations, but when it's time for things to be product, we will bring them in and do the product work inside using the normal structures. We're not sort of well set up to ship sort of a product across multiple entities or anything. And so I think this particular framing has allowed us to have that flexibility to not be overly prescriptive about the system we were building, allow us to really have the experts work together and see what the technology can do and design based on what the right thing to build is, and not, you know, whatever sort of product thing that leaders had set up in their head in advance. And so that's been a really key thing for us, is to just frame that we're building the core tech in the open, but the system that we built, the collaboration is not the final piece. And that's given us, I think, a lot more freedom to be successful here, and is definitely something that I recommend. So I don't really have a lot more to say about the collaboration. I can, you know, give an endorsement that it's been great. I think we're all happy with where we've gotten to and what we've built. And yeah, I think that it's, I hope we see a lot more collaborations like this, because I feel like we've taken the technology farther just by trying to make it concrete and build more things and have more people involved. And I think that's only one small step in how far we can go with more people being involved. So as I said in the breakout, I'm happy to talk about my experiences with any of these other types of collaboration models or anything, but yeah, we've been, in this case, pretty flexible, just feeling it out as it goes, and it's worked pretty well so far.